Despite Vax-A-Million, Ohio still lags in vaccination rates. Joining us on Columbus on the Record this week, Sam Gresham of Common Cause Ohio, Anna Staver, State House reporter for the Columbus Dispatch, and Mark Weaver, Republican strategist. The good news is Ohio is on the road to recovery. COVID cases are down, as are deaths and hospitalizations. The not so good news is other states are moving more quickly down that road. That's because of vaccine acceptance. Ohio's vaccination rate is literally meh. Here's where we stand. Northeastern states lead the way. Vermont, Maine, and Massachusetts rank 1, 2, 3 in the nation. More than half of their total populations are fully vaccinated. In the Midwest, Wisconsin ranks 17th nationally with 45%. Iowa is at 44%. Michigan at 24th with 42%. And we are right behind them, smack dab in the middle, 25th out of 50 at 40%. Mississippi ranks last, its familiar spot, with 27% fully vaccinated. This week, a 40-year-old man from Toledo, recently vaccinated, won the Vax-A-Million lottery. He's exactly the age group Governor DeWine says that needs to get the shot.
But when we're looking at how we get to slowing this down even more and get to the bigger numbers, it's the younger people. It's those basically under 50. That's where you're going to see, that's where we have the biggest room to grow.
Anna Staver, older folks who are the most vulnerable to COVID, they seem to be doing well. Most of them are vaccinated. It's the next group down, the folks who middle-aged and younger, that the governor is trying to get vaccinated right now.
Yeah, it's my age bracket. He's trying to vaccinate. But I think some of it is just a question of time. One of the things, so Jonathan Carlisle is the man from Toledo who won the Vax-A-Millions. And he said, the things that struck me were, I work for Amazon. I am tired when I get home. I have a 4-month-old. I have kids. I have household obligations. And he never just seemed to find the time to go get it. And then when he found out there was this $1 million giveaway, he decided to go get it. And it's about, how do we incentivize people for whom I think they see it as a nice to have, but not a need to have. They're not opposed to the vaccine, but they don't feel like it'll kill them if they get it. And, other things that we've seen is companies offering paid days off to go get it. That seems to be working really, really well. Office clinics, as we return to work more, any kind of incentive that pushes people across that threshold. And the governor's been touting that in the weeks before Vax-A-Millions started, there was like a 25% drop off in 16 and older vaccinations. But since then, they've seen a 28% increase. So he's calling it a win. And, every state in the country seems to be doing their own giveaway now. So they must think he's onto something.
Yeah, some of them are pretty innovative. Mark Weaver, Ohio is one of the first states to open up the vaccines to more people. I mean, the people younger were able to get the vaccine sooner than other states. I have relatives in Massachusetts who are in their late 70s. My children who are in their early 20s got the vaccine before they did, but yet Massachusetts has leaped ahead of us. What do you think's going on? We were first to offer it to folks, but they haven't been taking advantage of it, it seems.
Yeah, part of this is driven by age populations, right? So the older states are going to get a little more vaccine. That's part of the numbers. But the unique thing about what Governor DeWine did with the Vax-A-Million is the notion of playing the lottery, if you will, lined up very nicely with those who were most averse to getting the vaccine. So we know, for example, lottery, with the normal lottery, skews lower education, and you don't find as many folks with higher education playing it. So that's one of the geniuses of doing Vax-A-Million, was it's addressing directly the sort of folks who need to get the vaccine. And I think we're seeing other states wanting to copy what Governor DeWine has done. Imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and they're not doing it even as well. So I think some of these numbers, they're going to even out. When we look back upon this period, I think you'll see Ohio leads the nation in how it handled this.
Sam Gresham, we have 3 weeks left in the Vax-A-Million lottery, 3 drawings left. What happens after that's over? Do we have to come up with something else to bring people out?
No, I don't think so. I have to give the governor credit. This was unique and it's working. It's getting needles in arms. I think if the closer we get to the goal, the better off we are. But I think he's already won. The battle has been fought and he's won. They made fun on him of him on Saturday Night Live. Comedians all over the country were punting him on their show, and he won. I give him kudos.
To the folks, Sam, I'll keep it with you. To the folks who, at the beginning of this, were seen to be reluctant to get the vaccine. African Americans was one group that was seen to be a population because of history that would be reluctant to get the vaccine. What are you hearing in your community about that? Are folks willing now to get the shot and no worry about it?
Maximilian starved that. That's not a problem anymore. Everybody's trying to get that shot in their arm as soon as they can so they can enroll in the lottery to get that money. Students too. No, it solved it. Mm-hmm. And see, one of the things Mark said, it's targeted to a particular group of people. And in that is a large group of African Americans. And the number they played is the pool is smaller than the lottery, so they got a better chance of doing this based on the conversation I've had with people. And they gave the governor kudos for being original, innovative, all that. They had nothing to me to say bad about. It's the intellects who are pounding it in the ground like it's stupid. Not everyday people. It spoke to them, and specifically African-American people.
Mark Weaver, politics is playing a role here. The states that voted for Donald Trump, the areas of Ohio that voted for Donald Trump in large numbers have the lowest vaccination rates. Do you see that going away, Mark, as more and more people get it and they don't see the side effects? Do you see the politics becoming less of a factor with this, or is it here to stay?
You know, I think herd immunity is going to be built up in a variety of ways. The two most important being whether you were vaccinated or whether you had COVID, and they both move towards herd immunity. I really think this will be like a battleship that's starting to sink. It's slowly starting to go, and it's going to go faster and faster. And what I mean by that is the problem of unvaccination is largely going to be away, certainly by Labor Day. We're not going to be talking about this strong need, probably because we're going to reach herd immunity.
Anna Staver, this was the first few days with really no state health mandates. There are some still in effect, nursing homes and places like that, but no mask mandates statewide for folks who are vaccinated, no capacity limits on restaurants or on places of mass gatherings. At the State House, I assume that they're relieved that those have passed and that bone of contention among lawmakers and the tension between the legislature and the administration is gone for now.
I guess they did file to end the governor's order a few hours before he announced they were ending it. So I think there may have been a handful of state lawmakers that would have liked to have been the ones to rescind it themselves. But that's like, inner office politics. But I think a lot of people also feel a little strange. Like we were talking about it in the press corps, the Senate president, when he gave his presentation on the budget, he looked at me and he goes, I don't know that I've ever seen your face fully since I started right before the pandemic. And then, I was masked up ever since. And it's just that figuring out that new normal, when we went to the grocery store the other day with my kids, I think at least 50% of people were still masked in the store after the mandate had ended. But now I think it really depends on where you live and how you feel and, your personal preference. On the other side, we saw sort of Josh Mandel and Dave Yost burning their masks on social media. So it kind of really runs the gambit, like from people who are still wearing them to people who aren't anymore. Yeah. But I will say most of the Democrats in the legislature are not wearing them anymore. So yeah, it's strange. I think at least, go ahead.
No, it's strange. We're so used to wearing masks. I mean, I'm vaccinated, but I still put it on when I go to the grocery store. I still wear it when I'm going into a restaurant, take it off. But it's going to take a little while to get used to it.
I think it's a habit.
Yeah.
That you got to get used to. I joked the other day, it took me like 5 minutes to pick a lipstick because I'm like, somebody's going to see it.
Yeah.
But no, I think we're all kind of just figuring out what our new normal looks like as we emerge from the pandemic.
Yeah, well, it's a good problem to have, I guess. Columbus,
Yeah.
the city of Columbus has a new police chief after a year of protest, the deaths of 3 African Americans at the hands of law enforcement. Detroit Deputy Police Chief Elaine Bryant will take over the Columbus Police Department. She is the first African American woman to hold the post and the first chief hired from outside the department.
But that history is not as significant as the change in culture of policing that we will make together to rebuild trust with the community and to keep Columbus neighborhoods safe.
And we cannot be afraid of the changes that must be made. I do not live my life in fear. I will not lead this division with fear. Because in the words of one of the most influential leaders and mentors that I've had, cops count and leadership matters.
Sam Gresham, she comes from a big city police department, a historic appointment. What do you think of the choice?
Columbus is about to pop. This young lady's got more pop than popcorn has. It's going to be a different step in this city because you got a little black woman who is now the police chief. That's going to be interesting to see. It's an experiment of experiments. Black folk have not been revered in the Columbus Police Department. Go all the way back to Chief Jackson. The safety directors that we had are African American. This is going to be really interesting because it's a combination of two things the police department are not in love with: Black people and a woman. So it's going to be interesting to see how this experiment works out. The mayor is in the corner already. He's going to support her no matter what she does. Final thing I want to say, she has an excellent reputation from my family in Detroit who says she's a community person. She gets out in the community, gets involved with activities, and the community will know her name. She won't hide herself under her badge. So it's going to be a big difference. Let's see what happens.
Mark Weaver, the new incoming chief, says she has to build trust both with officers and with the community. How does she build trust with both of those groups simultaneously?
Yeah, I don't envy her. Certainly, I disagree with Sam's notion that police officers somehow don't like black people or women. I don't think that's true at all. But I will say this, that there is a crisis of confidence in the Columbus Police Division. When suburban openings come up in the suburban departments, dozens, if not more than 100 CPD officers are applying to get out. The city is in a really tough time right now. Revenues are going to be down because of COVID. People are leaving to go to the suburbs. Crime is on the increase. Officers are very unhappy. I do not envy the task this woman is going to be inheriting.
Anna Staver, I know you don't cover City Hall, but this is the first outsider, so it's hard. She doesn't come in, nobody knows her, so she can start fresh. She doesn't have alliances or feuds with current officers, but people are going to view her a little warily.
Yeah, in some of the reporting that my colleagues did, they interviewed a Black police officer who said they took it as a sign that the department was serious about change. But conversely, some activists said they worried that she might be being set up to fail, and it would depend on how the mayor and how the city council was going to support her in the weeks and months ahead of us. So I think that kind of describes sort of the tightrope that she's going to have to walk here as she kind of figures out what kind of police chief she wants to be here in Columbus, and also just discovers the city. She is moving from out of state, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's just, it takes time to learn the people and the neighborhoods and the places.
Sam Gresham, the mayor talked about a change in culture with the police department. Does the police department need a change in culture, and can she be the vehicle to do it?
Does Stevie Wonder need his eyes? Yes. The police department, and Mark, excuse me for a moment. Let me expound on some numbers. This year, and I think we're mid-year, we've already killed 8 Black men and a woman. 7 Black men and a woman. Did you realize that Columbus was 115th in the country for killings? And we've been killing Black people for 1,000 years in this city. They do have a problem, and they do need to correct that problem. How could you have a man on the police department who has 89 complaints against him before you do something to him. Yeah, they do have a problem. I'm sorry. Now, to answer your question, Michael, directly, it's an experiment, and the mayor and city council are going to have to support her because the POE, whatever it is,
FOP, the police union.
Yeah, are going to test her. They're going to fight with her. They're going to create some obstacles for her. And I wouldn't be surprised if it ended up being a little black-white over there for a while until things get away. Now, let me finish, Mark. I've heard of almost gunfights in the locker rooms in the Columbus Police Department. So don't tell me about everybody loves everybody, because that's not true.
Mark, I'm gonna get your take on this. You do some work with the FOP in your role as a strategist. Does the police department need a culture change?
No, I don't think so. There's a narrative out there that somehow that police officers have a racial bias. And that's not true. They go where they're called to go. And in some of the neighborhoods where the most crime is, often are African-American neighborhoods. These are difficult jobs. The notion of second-guessing police officers who are working for low pay in a dangerous job and then wanting to put them in prison if we think they make a mistake, this will drive good people out of policing, and it will make Columbus more dangerous. And the people who will be most hurt, sadly, will be African Americans.
All right, we'll see how this turns out over the months and years to come. Speaking of months to come, the 2020-2022 campaign is still in its formative stage. We don't think the fields for governor and U.S. Senate are yet complete. We're waiting to see if former Congressman Jim Renacci will challenge Mike DeWine in a Republican primary for governor. The Cincinnati Enquirer first reported this week that the mayor of that city, John Cranley, plans to run against Dayton Mayor Nan Whaley in the Democratic primary for governor. In the race for U.S. Senate, we're waiting to see if author and conservative pundit J.D. Vance will jump in. The first candidate to announce a bid for U.S. Senate, Josh Mandel, has lost a few fundraisers, according to the Columbus Dispatch. Mark Weaver, first to the fundraiser question. Is that a sign of trouble for Josh Mandel that 3 of his fundraisers have left this early in the campaign?
I don't think so. There's a lot of turnover early on in campaigns like this. People are staffing up. Josh Mandel's got some statewide name ID. He's got some ability to raise money. Having said that, Jane Timken is very well positioned in this race. And when you have a multiple candidate race, as this is going to be, it's very difficult to predict who's going to come out. When it's a one-on-one, those are easy predictions to make. But when you have many different candidates, and I'm not sure we've seen all the ones yet, the notion of who comes out at the end, it's very difficult to say.
If J.D. Vance were to enter the race, he would want both Josh Mandel and Jane Timken to remain in the race and split the so-called Trump vote. Do you see him entering the race, Mark?
I think he will, and you can't ignore anybody who's got a $10 million super PAC investment already supporting him. He's got the ability to raise money nationally. Now, some of his more recent associations with the tech industry will hurt him with rank and file Republicans, because most of these tech giants are far left people who've been trying to shut down conservative speech. So he's got a very difficult tightrope to walk. But I think he probably will get in. Open Senate seats are rare. When they eventually open up, that person will tend to be there for at least a few terms. And so unless he wants to run against Sherrod Brown in 2 years, which is not an open seat, I think he runs now.
Sam Gresham, a Democratic primary for governor, would that be good if John Cranley got in and took on Nan Whaley, who's already announced?
I think anything that brings Democrats out is good for the Democratic Party. But let me tell you something. This offseason is not going to be the traditional one. There's too much floating around in the air in the country, particularly the Senate, and Portman is running here. So I don't think that's going to be an idle conversation. People are being organized, and Portman is not running. Yeah. And there will be people all over the state organizing to get that seat. So if the Republicans sleep this and think this is going to be an off-turn election, no, it's not. We're going to turn out people like we did in the general. And we're going to continue to turn out people in the general. We may not win them, but one day we're going to turn out enough people to win one of these off-season elections. And the final thing, what the 43 states are doing around the country on voting rights is making Black people angry. And Black people are no longer sleeping anymore. They are really, really angry every place I go, and everybody wants to talk about that. and how they're trying to turn us out. They're trying to keep us from voting. We suspect something like that is going to happen in Columbus and in Ohio. We are angry.
Anna Staver, to generate support among Democrats, Nan Whaley is borrowing a phrase, so to speak, from the 1992 Bill Clinton campaign. It's corruption stupid would be her campaign. She is just targeting what the First Energy, the nuclear bailout story, trying to use that as her message in this campaign early on. She thinks that's enough to carry her, I assume.
Yeah, I find it really interesting because, that was the thing that was supposed to carry Democrats in 2020, and it didn't really pan out in Ohio. And, I've, post-mortem, I've heard from like state party officials who have said that they didn't do it right or they didn't do it effectively. And I think Whaley is trying to stick DeWine with HB6 and with Householder, which is an interesting choice because, DeWine doesn't have any authority to get rid of Larry. That's up to the House, and they haven't acted yet. But he did have ties to Sam Randazzo and some of the other people that are sort of within the sphere of this investigation. I think it will play well in the primary. I don't know how it will do in the general yet. And just because I think DeWine is a pretty popular governor, he appeals, he has moderate appeal. He was pro-mask, he was pro, stay-at-home orders. His handling of the pandemic sort of differed from other Republican governors, which I think gives him a lot of crossover appeal come the general, because, he may certainly lose repeal to people in the primary who might like someone more like Jim Renacci, but those people are never going to vote for Nan Whaley, right? They're either going to choose not to vote, which is probably unlikely, or they're going to perhaps hold their nose and vote for DeWine.
Mark Weaver, I mentioned the 92 campaign, and one of the reasons is that in 91, nobody thought George H.W. Bush could be beaten because of the first Gulf War and the success there, and he was beaten. Mike DeWine has seen great success, at least in the opinions of most Ohioans. His approval ratings for his handling of the COVID pandemic are really high. But if that's ending now, and the election is still a year and a half away, could the same thing happen to him if this bailout story, the corruption story, really takes hold?
Well, George H.W. Bush was never a good politician. He was a great man and a great leader, but never a great politician. Mike DeWine's pretty strong both ways. It's going to be hard for Democrats to make the corruption case for at least two reasons. It was Democrat votes that made Larry Householder Speaker, and we still don't know what backdoor deals were made with the Democrat caucus to make him Speaker. A lot of explaining to do for that. And then secondly, the amount of Democrat politicos headed to prison from Cincinnati and from Dayton could fill a prison bus. The corruption in those cities, one of which where Nan Whaley's coming from, we still don't even know what other indictments are coming in Cincinnati and Dayton from the local corruption around those city halls. This will be a difficult case for the Democrats to make.
Anna Staver, how does Nan Whaley respond to that, particularly the Dayton issues where there have been some city officials indicted?
So she said that they did an independent audit at the time, and that they created an investigative commission and they looked into it. And this is something that she's called on DeWine to do. She said if she was elected, she'd create a bipartisan commission to look at the state house and what needs to perhaps change and institute new ethics rules for the governor's office. Now, it should be noted that the city of Dayton declined to release the full audit, and the Dayton Daily News sort of had to fight to get even the report on, the 2 to 3 page report on the audit released to the public. So they weren't super open about what they found.
All right, it'll be an interesting year and a half. We're a little less than a year away from the May primary for 2022. So,
Mike, may I add to that?
If you got 30 seconds, Sam, 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Democrats want to win Portman's seat. You're going to see more activity in this state than you've seen for a while.
All right. Well, that's a preview of our off-the-record final parting shots. And we'll start with Mark Weaver, with you.
Well, we know that the off-year elections tend to favor the party that's not in the White House, which means Republicans are likely to win back the Congress in 2022. But there's another factor that your viewers may not know about. The Lincoln Day dinners our party holds around the state, which normally have trouble filling seats, they're sold out. They're turning people away. One small county in our state had 150 people show up the other night for their Lincoln Day. The energy level amongst the Republican base is so strong, it's going to add to the traditional factor of an off-year boost for Republicans.
And Sam Gresham, your final thought.
This is a reflection year for this country and for this state. What has normally been the patterns will no longer be the patterns. People have woken up, and you're going to see a lot more energy in this state and across the country.
And Anna Staver, your final thought.
I've been asking myself this question about hero pay and these big bonuses for frontline workers. So the American Rescue Plan lets states give out these bonuses to first responders, frontline workers, nurses, doctors, childcare workers during the pandemic. And now Ohio is having this kind of fight within the legislature over who deserves one. Is it just police, fire, and EMS, or should it be teachers, nurses, and doctors? And sort of the question I keep asking myself is, if I was in control of this, who would I give the hero pay bonus to?
You won't tell us, I'll bet.
Reporters.
Yeah, no, we don't want it. Anyway, my OSU football plans to be back to full capacity this fall. Tickets went on sale this week. That'll be the first gauge of how comfortable people are to pack into a stadium with 100,000 fans. I wonder how sales are going to go over the next month. We'll see if fans are excited to get back to see the Buckeyes en masse after this, when the fall starts. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Check us out online, Facebook and Twitter, Instagram, I guess, TikTok, no. All that at our website, wosu.org/COTR. For our crew and for our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.